Joining us in studio, Tom Fitton, the president of Judicial Watch. Tom, thank you for coming in. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
So doing what Judicial Watch does wonderfully, you guys file FOIA requests, you get ignored, so you file lawsuits, and a couple of years later, you finally get a bunch of documents that you were looking for. The latest, though, making news because of what you found regarding Hillary Clinton's personal email server and some of the emails that were contained on that server. What did you find?
Well, we found more classified emails, and these are not
Shocking.
these aren't the emails that she turned over to the State Department. This comes from the batch that she tried to destroy or otherwise hide.
Because they didn't have anything relating to government business, right?
They were all personal, and outrageously, she was able to hide 28,000 because the FBI was only able to recover 5,000. So we've been getting those 5,000 records in batches, and this is the final batch. So as far as we know, there's nothing else they've recovered that they're turning over to us. There may be material they haven't turned over to us, obviously. But it includes classified information about Israel, about Gaza, communications with Tony Blair. And it shows you just how outrageous it is that Hillary Clinton's been able to get away with what she's gotten away with by as a result of the sham investigation by the FBI and Justice Department. And I hope, Attorney General Barr sees another story about classified emails that not only did they find, but she tried to destroy and hide, and think better of the Justice Department FBI investigation that came before him and said, well, we got to look at this ourselves.
Tom, what's so outrageous about this is, look, I'm a former federal government employee, and there are a lot of federal government employees, current and former, who listen to this radio station, and every single one of them knows that if they had mishandled classified materials the way Hillary Clinton did, they would have been prosecuted by the Department of Justice.
Well, exactly right. And she knew. She was warned. In this batch of emails, she talks about having to get a secure computer. So that she knew that she was handling sensitive information. And on top of this, the emails show she's getting emails again from Sidney Blumenthal, the nasty kind of a conspiracy theorist, worked at the Clinton Foundation. Even the Obama White House didn't want him in the State Department, so she secretly was taking advice from him. And he sends her some virulent anti-Israel conspiracy theory, Israel government's colluding with the Jews here in America type email. Lanny Davis, the Cohen lawyer, friend of Hillary, he's sending her obsequious emails. On top of that, you've got Clinton Foundation people working with the State Department as well. Remember, we were told Clinton Foundation would have nothing to do with the State Department. So it's good reason they wanted to hide this material from us, and it's a reason that a court on another case has authorized us to begin taking testimony from Clinton email witnesses about what was going on here. Was all of this designed to avoid the Freedom of Information Act?
No, of course not.
The court wants to know that. And where's the Justice Department? Where's Congress? In fact, Justice Department's opposing our efforts to get this information from these witnesses.
A key thing there, Tom, that you just said, and people need to understand why this is important, was the emails you uncovered about the Clinton Foundation working closely with the Secretary of State and the State Department. And that's really important. Why? Because the Clinton Foundation during that period was getting huge amounts of money, donations from foreign governments and foreign individuals. And you have to sit there and think, well, why were they doing that? Was that because they wanted to influence the U.S. Secretary of State?
Well, certainly they were able to influence the U.S. Secretary of State. We had prior emails that came out where you had a foreign leader being unable to get a diplomatic meeting with the Secretary of State, so he went through the Clinton Foundation to get the meeting accomplished. And on top of that, you obviously had all of this Uranium One type money, Russia money flowing into the Clinton Foundation, including a personal speech that Bill Clinton made that netted them personally $500,000 from a firm associated with Uranium One in Russia, a government entity, essentially. There's a lot here to investigate. And is Attorney General Barr going to ratify the corrupt decisions of Lynch, the Attorney General under Obama, and James Comey? I think that's the question of the day.
Well, didn't she also say under oath in 2015, under a penalty of perjury, that she had directed all of those emails in her custody that to be turned over. Now, we know that that's not true because we know that she tried to hide them. We know that she tried to get rid of some of them. You've gotten them. And we know that some of them contain classified information. She lied under oath, under penalty of perjury.
Yeah, she testified to us. As far as she knew, everything was turned over. But I recall she was much more specific and broad in her testimony to Congress about it. And from what I recall, they referred that testimony over for investigation. But again, Justice Department has been spending all of its time harassing the president and investigating his tweets, chasing a non-Russia collusion story, and again, in collusion with Hillary Clinton. So they don't want to look at Hillary Clinton, it seems.
So you don't think this is going to change?
You know, when you run your advertisements for investments, they say past experience or past
There's no indication of future performance.
Right. Actually, that's a pretty good rule of thumb in politics. What has been going on in the past will likely continue, absent pressure from Judicial Watch, or maybe the president says, you know what, the Justice Department needs to do its job, and the Attorney General should do its job. I don't know if Mrs. Clinton should be prosecuted or indicted, but I do know the American people still want an honest, legitimate investigation of what went on here, and we're just not going to ignore it anymore.
Well, the other thing, Tom, about this is how long did this take? You guys filed suit. I mean, how long ago did you file suit?
We began asking for emails back in 2011.
God.
Oh, this is unbelievable. More with Tom Fitton coming up. It is 7:44 on WMAL. So we're in studio with Tom Fitton, the president of Judicial Watch, talking about finding yet more classified Clinton emails, the ones that she said didn't exist, and she had turned everything all over. You know, they talked about intent, and that's one of the reasons why I remember James Comey saying, well, she didn't mean to. We couldn't find intent, and which intent not even being part of the law. But yet you found an email where she talks about getting, quote, a secure computer set up soon. So she knew that the computer was not secure, yet she was communicating with Tony Blair and others, and you happen to find emails that have been redacted, so you know that they were classified. So doesn't that blow away her entire claim of no intent? She didn't know. I didn't know.
Well, exactly. And on top of that, we had another set of emails we released earlier, I forget when, but since we began this battle, where the security official said you can't be using your own little BlackBerry here. The system's not secure. And the email show or the memo show that she came up to him and said, I got your message. Thank you. But then in other places, they said, well, these security hawks are trying to get me to, follow the rules. But, she didn't want to. Look, A, they didn't need intent, but B, she had it.
Right.
So, again, look, we see the Lisa Page stuff. They didn't want President Trump to then win. Hillary Clinton, they were more in favor of. And obviously, Barack Obama, Loretta Lynch, and James Comey had zero interest in prosecuting her. So the FBI investigation, the so-called criminal investigation, was just all make-believe. They weren't ever serious about going after her. We now know. So it's up to the Justice Department. Attorney General Barr probably wants zero to do with this.
Why?
Why? This is why he's paid the big bucks.
Why? Why doesn't he want anything to do with this? He's Trump's guy. Why?
Because institutionally, it seems to me, it puts the Justice Department in a box because it highlights the corruption of the Justice Department institutionally. And a lot of these folks, and Barr, I'm sure, is a patriot and a great man, but has zero interest in putting the Justice Department through this and taking on Hillary Clinton again. Remember, she kind of scares a lot of people, too. And
people don't like to commit suicide.
Well, look, Attorney General Barr, I say, is a patriot and a good man. If he took on Hillary Clinton, he would be excoriated by the swamp, and the Hillary gang would come out and tear him apart.
And you can see part of this in just one particular incident, and that's the fact that when Hillary Clinton's top aides were interviewed by the FBI, Huma Abedin and Cheryl Mills, they said they didn't know about the home computer, the home server computer. Well, that was a clear and obvious lie, and yet they have not been prosecuted for lying to a federal agent the way other people we know of recently have been on the Trump side of the political aisle.
Well, one of her top people, Huma Abedin, who had an email account on the system, she testified to us that she didn't know about it till after the fact. Well, we deposed Justin Cooper, the former Clinton Foundation employee who set up the system last week. Our attorneys flew up to New York over the objections, as I say, of the Justice Department, and he said, "Well, look, I worked with her on setting it up." So there's a lot of additional justice that could be meted out here.
But it's not going to be because it's Hillary Clinton and cohorts and it's Democrats, and Republicans are complicit in this, apparently.
It's unfortunate. We were authorized to ask questions in written format of Ben Rhodes, one of the top Obama White House officials who created the Benghazi lies that were used by Susan Rice. Because he says, did they hide Benghazi? Did they hide the emails because they were embarrassed by Benghazi? The court wants to know. And he's been playing games with us. We can't get him to answer our questions or communicate with him. So we went to the court seeking relief, saying, now we got to get a subpoena and bring him in under oath and question him. The Justice Department filed a brief opposing it. This Justice Department doesn't want us to ask questions of someone about Benghazi and the emails. Look, we all know about the deep state. That is Exhibit A, and I don't know what the Attorney General's doing or his top people there, but if he think he can rely on the institution of Justice Department officials to protect the public interest here, he's sadly mistaken. I mean, these are partisan liberals who are working to subvert the rule of law to protect Hillary Clinton and her people.
I got to say, Mary, Tom is absolutely right about that. I as a 4-year veteran of the Justice Department, the career lawyers I met there were some of the most left-wing liberal lawyers I have ever encountered in the entire all of the years I've practiced law.
Well, and this is why the Mueller report's going to be just a vicious attack on President Trump, I predict.
Interesting.